welcome back to another episode of Bet GPT. This is our Sweet 16 episode. We are fully inundated in the football season. We're excited to be here. And Slade, we had something happen to your least favorite quarterback the other day on Monday night. You want to get into that?
Aaron Rodgers on the fourth play of his Jets career snapped his Achilles. Are the Jets cursed?
Probably. They cannot, nothing goes right for them.
I don't really believe in curses for sports, but if there's a franchise that I would believe it for, it'd probably be them.
They haven't made the playoffs since 2010, and they've been to the playoffs a total of 14 times over 64 years.
Being a New York sports fan in general is pretty tough. Obviously, they have the Yankees and the Giants, but to have like that many pro sports in your city, and like the Knicks are a travesty. The Nets, we all know what happened recently there.
Yeah.
The Mets are very similar to the Jets in that everything just seems to go wrong for them.
Yeah. Don't forget about the Yankees either. So it's tough for the Jets. They pretty much have to decide, do they want to keep Zach Wilson? Do they want to find some subpar veteran quarterback to come in, such as Matt Ryan, or try to lure Phil Rivers out of retirement? I think the best option for them is to keep Wilson and just get the 15th overall pick in the draft, find someone that they can plug and play next year who's ready to go, and run it back with Rodgers again next year, because based off his Instagram post, it looks like he's coming back next year.
Yeah, he's not going to retire. If he was going to retire, that's when you would go full tank mode.
Yeah. Do you think there's any teams out there willing to trade their backup quarterback? Because there's a real argument to be made that a backup quarterback is your second most valuable player on the team, even though they're really not that good. The difference between a solid backup and a really poor backup, there's a huge discrepancy there. Like, I'd much rather have Jacoby Brissett than, some rookie like Clayton Tune out of Arizona.
Yeah, I was going to say Jacoby Brissett. I've heard his name thrown around a few times. I mean, that's a good question. I guess it depends. If you're in a team that's not going to win anything anyway, and you can get like a third or fourth, fifth round pick even, you might consider doing it. We'll see.
Yeah. It also shows, though, like, if you trade your backup in week 2, like, you're basically throwing in the towel, for that exact reason. So,
team in the AFC is going to do it either, because they don't want to help the Jets. It's going to be some NFC team who has a backup who isn't really in the race. I don't really have any names that I've heard other than really like Brissett or like Colt McCoy or like those type of guys, but nothing that's like intriguing.
Yeah, there's also Taylor Heineke out of the Falcons.
Yeah.
He's a potential option.
Why isn't Trey Lance in these conversations?
He just got traded, man. He's at his new home. He's ready to go.
I know. Shouldn't someone try to give him a shot? Imagine having Zach Wilson and Trey Lance from the same draft on the same team.
Trey Lance, his team, who he's currently rostered on, they won 40-0 on Sunday night. So Trey Lance is 1-0 this year, in my opinion.
QB wins. Did he take a snap? Did he get in?
I don't think so. But yeah, that was quite the game Monday night. I feel bad for the Jets, but I don't know. The NFL keeps moving on. You can talk about it for a couple days, but we got another fresh set of games this weekend, and we can get into it here.
Thank you for Hard Knocks. I guess that's what it comes down to. Thank you for 2023 Hard Knocks.
Yeah, the guy who made the team ended up having that punt return touchdown, which was a cool story. Our last 6-pack play from last week, we had you had the under in that game, and that came through.
Not exactly how we dialed it up, but it got the job done.
Yeah.
Wasn't even close.
So we went 3-3 last week with the 6-pack. So Slade went 2-1. I went 1-2. So we're looking to improve on that this week, mainly me. We'll give you the 6 picks right now. They are college football and NFL related. And once we give those out, we'll just go right into the NFL preview. and break down each game and then do college thereafter. Sound good?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So my first three, I have the Chargers -3 against the Titans. It's in Nashville. That is actually coming in at even money on FanDuel. So I'm a believer in the Chargers, but really I think that the Titans offense cannot score, 30 plus points. I got burned last week by taking the over. And Derrick Henry has getting out snapped. I know we talked about this last episode. You're still pretty high on him. I'm trending towards he's washed. There's a 60% in my mind that he's about done. So I'm going to stick with the Chargers -3. And my next pick is the Colts +1. I feel like that'll get to around pick'em. It's against the not the Falcons. It's against where is that game? I don't even see where that game is. Oh, the Texans. That's what it is. It's the battle of the rookie quarterbacks.
Is Richardson 100%, or is he playing for sure?
Yeah, he's playing. But a 80% Richardson is better than a 100% CJ Stroud. So
you can say that after one game.
Yeah, I can say that after one game. I can also say that
than him.
What?
Wasn't Stroud the higher pick?
Yeah, I can say that because I got burned by CJ Stroud getting drafted number 2 overall in the draft. That was not good for the bank account. I had CJ Stroud to be picked 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. I would have made so much money if any of those hit, and he went 2. So that was not great. But yeah, so Colts +1 against the Texans. And then I have DJ Moore over 42.5 receiving yards.
Smart.
In last episode's notes, I had the DJ Moore under, and I did not release it on the podcast. Slade, I know you can vouch for me. I need to be better. I need to be more transparent. And so I'm going with the over this week.
I think that's smart. They're going to force feed him. Like, they're going to force it to him. Justin's probably going to throw at least a pick trying to force feed him the ball because of how uninvolved he was last week.
Yeah.
All right. So for mine, I'm making this play because if you gave it, it'd be considered biased. I'm taking the Browns at -2.5 to cover. That's the last Monday night game. There's 2 Monday night games this week. That's the second one, the later one. The weakness of the Steelers is their offensive line. The strength of the Browns is their defensive line. If they made Joe Burrow look silly last week, I know weather was a factor, but I don't think Kenny Pickett's Joe Burrow. I don't think there's a T. Higgins or a Jamar Chase in Pittsburgh. They can't run the football. Their defense got torched last week. I know it's in Pittsburgh. That's the only thing that kind of gives me pause is like the home divisional dog in a night game. But, I think the Browns are better in the trenches, better at quarterback. I like them at 2.5. If it was at 3.5, I'd be a little more nervous.
I think this is the first time I've ever seen you bet the Browns.
Yeah, and it's like 70%. I'm not a believer in the Steelers.
I was listening to the Deep Dive podcast. We can plug that and share that on Twitter as well. But I really enjoy listening to those guys talk about it. And one of the hosts, Drew, said that he thinks Kenny Pickett got a concussion on the 3rd play of the game. And that's why he thinks the Steelers struggled so much last week. So you can go back and check the tape on that. You can watch the Twitter videos of that hit. And that's why I'm a little hesitant on this. I think the Steelers are going to come out hot. It's Monday Night Football. TJ Watt is obviously one of the best defensive ends in the league. And the Browns right tackle, Jack Conklin, is hurt, out for the season as of last week. So they have DeJuan Jones, who's like a 6'8", 330-pound dude from Ohio State. He'll be having to block TJ Watt the whole game. I'm sure they'll have a tight end over there to like chip him and then release. But I'm a little worried about that. Cautiously optimistic, but.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be totally a Browns thing to just lose that game in like an inexplicable fashion. And I know that place is going to be rowdy, but I I don't know. I don't see it. So my second pick of the week is the Florida Tennessee under. I'm sure we'll get to this one later, but it's under 58.6. That's at minus 110. 2 words: Graham Mertz.
I knew you were going to say that.
But no, in all seriousness, there's a lot of people trending towards Florida to actually win this game straight up. It's like it was an 8-point spread. It is now a 6.5-point spread. Tennessee is the favorites. It is at the Swamp. This is really the first time that I think Tennessee is going to get tested or even close to tested. They played 2 cupcakes to start the year. Florida had some of the most penalties in any game in that Utah opener. They could not run the football, but they stuck with it. I think they're going to still try to establish the run. I think that crowd is going to make a difference. And let's be real, can Florida score over 26.5? That's what they're projected it at in the book. So if you want to kind of like not bet on Florida, maybe you think Tennessee is going to score a lot, then just take under 26.5 for Florida. I would lean the 7.5 if it got up to that number, but at 6.5, I don't love it. And then the last one, I'm going to do something a little different. I don't know if we've done a teaser yet in the 6-pack.
I don't believe so.
I'm going to do a 3-leg 7-point teaser. It does still come out to plus money. It's plus 120. So the Cowboys are a 9.5-point favorite at home against the Jets this week. After the teaser, they'll be a 2.5-point favorite. So I've got the Cowboys 2.5-point favorite. The 49ers over the Rams goes from 7.5 down to either a pick 'em or a half point. Either way, it's still a pick 'em. Or they just have to win money line. And then the third game is the Bills 2.5 at home versus the Raiders. I know we never really got to talk about that Monday night game, and I'm sure we'll talk about it when we preview this game here in a minute.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of buying the bounce back a little bit. I know we released our power rankings. I'm definitely not as high on the Bills as you. I'm not out on them. I just don't see them in the same way as you, but I do think they're going to win by over 2.5. I love the numbers these came down to. The Cowboys only need to win by a field goal. The Bills only need to win by a field goal. And the 49ers just need to win. And they're clearly the better team, but it's on the road. So I feel really good about this one. This is my favorite pick out of the 3 at plus 120.
Okay. Yeah, we can I have some thoughts on these games. Once we just go through the order of the games, we can get into a little bit more detail there. But that's our 6-pack. We have the Chargers -3 at even money. The Colts +1 against the Texans -110. DJ Moore over 42.5 receiving yards, which I got that at -142. Shop around for that. And then Slade's picks: Browns -2.5 on Monday night against the Steelers. The Florida Tennessee under 58.5. And then the 3-leg 7-point teaser: Cowboys -2.5, Niners down to pick 'em, and Bills -2.5. So looking like a 6-0 week, if I do say so myself.
Yep.
So
hey, let's give ourselves some credit. You know, Chris Felicia, the guy for Fox, used to work for ESPN, called the Bear. He went 2-5 last week. So us going 3-3 sounds pretty good.
He's getting paid for that, and we're not. We're just doing this for fun.
We only make our own money. We only eat what we kill.
I will say Chris Felica, his overall record is probably way more in the positive than ours. Yeah. But everybody has bad weeks. Just try to minimize it. Yeah. All right. NFL preview. We just to give everyone some context, 5 p.m. hits on a Thursday. We get off work. That's when we start recording this pod. So it blends a little bit into the Thursday night game. The Vikings-Eagles is about to kick off, like literally right now. Do you just want to, like, for the record, who wins, Vikings or Eagles? Then we can skip it.
I know last week I said Eagles by 7. I think the Eagles are still going to win. I think it's going to be very close. I know I lost my Vikings pick last week, but I still think they're they're a decent team. They outplayed the Bucs. They just turned the ball over 3 times. The Eagles looked a little rough last week. I still think the Eagles win. I'm taking the Eagles like in a 24-20 type game.
Yeah, I can see that. I really don't want to pick a side here. I think the Eagles end up winning. But what I am betting is that the Vikings offensive line gets decimated. Their center, Garrett Bradbury, is out. So that is not looking good for him. And basically, to kind of correlate that, I'm going to bet Jalen Carter, or I did, bet Jalen Carter to have at least 1 sack at plus 150. I think that he has a chance to win Defensive Rookie of the Year too, because he looked really good, unsurprisingly, against the Patriots. Who would have thought Jalen Carter was going to be good?
I know.
I got in a big debate with my wife the other night because Micah Parsons was on the screen. And, he got in trouble for the hazing at Penn State, and that's why he fell in the draft a few spots. I was just like, why? And even the Deshaun Watson thing. No one cares about their past anymore. It's pretty sad, but that's just the reality is if they're good at football, then everything eventually gets swept under the rug. Why all these teams who selected ahead of had a draft selection before Micah Parsons, they have to be kicking themselves because they lost the best player in the draft just because of a hazing thing that he was 19. Obviously, that's a lot different than the Deshaun Watson type of situation. But just kind of build a good culture and hope that you can sustain these talents and keep them out of trouble is essentially it.
Yeah, I think in some ways those guys landed in the right situations, Carter and Parsons. I remember when the Bears were up on the clock for Jalen Carter, it was our culture right now is so bad and we have so few veterans. We're such a young team that I don't know if he would have flourished the way he's going to in Philadelphia if he were dropped into Chicago. So it kind of depends what you have in place a little bit too.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And I went back and pulled up the 2021 draft real quick. This could go down as one of the best drafts of all time, potentially. The top is a little screwy, but after that, it gets really good. Trevor Lawrence won, A+, obviously. Zach Wilson, bad. Trey Lance, bad. Kyle Pitts, jury's still out. I think he's a good player. Arthur Smith just doesn't know how to use him. Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, elite. Penei Sewell, elite. J.C. Horn just got hurt, unfortunately. He's elite. Pat Surtain, maybe the best cornerback in the league. Devontae Smith, Justin Fields, bust, and Micah Parsons. So that's an elite top 12 minus the 2 and 3. We also got Mac Jones in that draft, Kadarius Toney, Travis Etienne. But yeah, okay, that was just my soapbox on Micah Parsons. Okay, next game up, we have the first game on Sunday, Chargers Titans. I'll kick this one off because this is one of my plays. Chargers -3. First off, DeAndre Hopkins did not practice yesterday or today on Thursday. So that's not a good sign. Like I said, I don't think Derrick Henry has the juice anymore. I do not think Tannehill can go blow for blow with Justin Herbert. I'm sure you listened to the Bill Simmons podcast where Bill Simmons was making fun of Justin Herbert. I think that's completely in the wrong. I think Justin Herbert is a top 5 QB. If anything, they just need to quit running the ball. They just need to let him air it out. So with Eckler potentially missing the game as well, I actually think that'll be better for the offense. And that's why I think the Chargers are going to cover the 3.
I would agree with the Chargers -3. I'm staying away from it, but I just think that Ryan Tannehill blows. And it's really that simple.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, Packers Falcons.
Did this line surprise you a little bit?
I mean, I would have guessed maybe Packers as the favorite instead of given 1 point. Maybe they'd be a 1 or 2 point favorite.
Yeah, I thought it'd be like Packers, like 2.5 type thing. But
it's just so tough because Christian Watson could still potentially be hurt. I think Romeo Doubs is hurt as well.
I think the Falcons defense will definitely give up a better fight than what the Packers saw last week. I don't think their defense is necessarily like best in the league or anything, but when you go from playing incompetence to playing something average, it's probably a big jump. The Falcons quarterback, I have to take the Packers because I just think Desmond Ridder is like going to be asked to win this game for you. I don't think you can rely on Algier and Bijan to just like carry an entire offense week in and week out. Like Ridder at the very least has to like connect on like a few deep balls or like get Drake London involved. But right now, Kyle Pitts too, like they have all these weapons, but it just seems like he handicaps them.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And they have Drake London, they have Kyle Pitts. I think they had 3 combined catches last week. It just makes no sense how you should have a really dynamic offense considering the last 3 years you picked an elite player in the top 10 of the draft, or at least
Bijan is going to lead that team in catches and probably receiving yards. And then Algier and him are going to both like lead the team in rushing. But it's like, if you're a wide receiver on that team, I'd almost feel bad for them because I actually think Drake London is really talented.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the Packers injury report scares me a lot. Aaron Jones, he's going to miss the game probably because of his hamstring. Christian Watson in the same boat. Romeo Doubs, he's limited in practice. Rashawn Gary and Quay Walker also limited in practice. It's just, yeah, it's a lot of injuries, whereas the Falcons look pretty healthy to a certain extent. So probably not playing anything there, but should be a field goal game either way. Next up, the Colts +1 at the Texans. As I said earlier, I just think Anthony Richardson is a better QB than CJ Stroud. I think the Colts played pretty well against the Jags last week. They just made a few mistakes. Anthony Richardson had a few rookie mistakes as well. But if there's going to be rookie mistakes on both sides of the field for the game, that I think it's obviously evens out and the better team will win. So I'm leaning the Colts here.
Yeah, I like Richardson a little more than Stroud, but even if let's say they're a wash, I just think the Colts are talented in the other 52 spots on their roster. Not everywhere, but just as at an aggregate. And so I would take them as well. If it were in Indianapolis, I think I'd feel a lot better about it, but I'll still take the Colts here.
Okay. Seahawks +4.5 at the Lions. That's a pretty interesting line.
Yeah, I like that game. I think that's probably one of the more interesting games of the weekend. Some weird colored jerseys going on in that one. I'm going to take the Lions. I think this is a game the Lions kind of need if they want to get taken seriously, and I think the Seahawks probably feel like they need it too after dropping the Rams one. So that'll be a very interesting one. I think that's the Lions home opener.
Yep.
I just think that you're going to see a little more Jahmyr Gibbs and a little less David Montgomery.
Okay. I'm probably leaning the Seahawks. I know I bet on them last week to beat the Rams, and they severely underperformed. Geno Smith couldn't handle the pressure of Aaron Donald. Lions really just have Aiden Hutchinson as kind of their leader on the defensive line. But she showed some glimpses last year. I just don't know if he's ready to become like that super dominant player that can wreck a game. So I'm going to lean with the Seahawks. 4.5's a lot to give. But it's probably a no bet for me as well.
Yeah, I'm just going to watch that one.
Yeah. Yep. Next up, Bears +2.5 at the Bucs. What do we got here?
The Bears opened up as like a week or two ago, they were a couple point favorite. Now they're a couple point dog. So after last week, the line moved about 4.5 points. From what I've heard, the sharp money's on the Bears. I'm not betting on it. I think the Bucs are definitely not as good as whatever happened last week. Like I said with the Vikings, they got outgained by 150 yards. They got beat statistically in like every category. they're only got like 3 yards per play compared to the Vikings, who are like 5.9. The difference was Kirk just turned it over 3 different times, and a couple of those were in the red zone. I don't think the Bucs are good. I think that's going to be one of those games we look back at the end of the year. We're like, how the hell did the Bucs win that? It'll be a hot day. It'll be at home. I can't in good faith bet the Bears, but I'm not taking either team.
Yeah. That's why I stayed away from actually betting the game. That's why I'm on the DJ Moore over. The Bears offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy, straight up said that last week was a disappointment with only the 2 targets. They went out and traded for the guy. You got to start giving him the ball, especially if you think he's a true wide receiver 1, which I think a lot of people in the NFL do. So I could see him, having, 7 to 10 targets. I think he's going to go over 40. I think I had it, 45 yards?
42, 45, somewhere like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Bucs have as much of a mismatch in the trenches as we saw last week, both ways. So I think that'll help the Bears a lot. The Buccaneers' strength on offense is probably wide receiver, and the Bears' strength on defense is maybe the back end. I know they lost their starting safety today on IR, but I still think that they'll at least be competitive down the field. So can Baker play 2 good games in a row is the other hard question. You never know where you're going to get with that guy.
Based off his history, the answer to that is no. But we'll see. Next up, we have Raiders plus 8.5 against the Bills. So we can, I guess, kind of break down the Bills' performance. I thought that against the Jets on Monday night, I thought their defense played fine. It's really, their whole team actually played fine other than Josh Allen. He threw 3 interceptions, and his fumble where he couldn't handle the snap and then ran with it and then fumbled again.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like they had, that's an absolutely brutal play. They had 3 other turnovers, and they still went to overtime against a team with an elite defense. And yes, it was Zach Wilson, but you really can just eliminate one of those mistakes and then hopefully eliminate 3 out of the 4 mistakes, and you're back to being a championship team. I still think they're the class of the AFC. I know you think a little bit differently.
No, I kind of disagree. I think the defense is a little bit old. I don't see any superstars on the defense. It's got a lot of old guys. I love Micah Hyde, but he was playing at Iowa when I was in middle school. Jordan Poyer is like 20 years older than his wife or whatever, but he's still their starting safety. Von Miller, they have all these guys. They lost Tremaine Edmonds. They don't have that much youth on their defense. It'll be interesting to see how it holds up over the course of a year. I've never been as high on Josh Allen as a lot of people. I see the talent. I see the arm. I just think ever since that game against the Chiefs, that playoff game, that classic game, was it 2 years ago? I felt like suddenly, and even though he lost, his reputation just went through the roof. And I think he's someone who tends to try to do too much and try to make the big play. And then, so he'll have games where he just looks amazing because all the risks he takes pays off. And then he has games where, like last week, he throws 3 picks and they're all just terrible decisions.
He's plus 600 right now. Who's the odds-on favorite to throw the most interceptions in the NFL this year? Some other notable names: Jordan Love 16-1, CJ Stroud 14-1, Dak and Joe Burrow 16-1, Kirk Cousins and Mac Jones 12-1. So everyone's kind of in the teen range for now. The vast majority of everybody.
Yeah. Last week was kind of a tough week in general for offenses. It was the least touchdowns in week 1 in 25 years or some stat like that. And I don't want to single out Josh Allen. I feel like you could go down the list and criticize quarterback play last week. I mean, Joe Burrow scored 3 points playing in the same conditions as Watson, who didn't even light it up. Lamar had some turnovers, no touchdowns. Who else? There was a couple others.
I mean, Kirk Cousins obviously didn't play well. Yeah, it was pretty sloppy all around. I think it has a lot to do with them not playing a lot in the preseason, but we'll see if that keeps up. Okay. As for the Raiders side of things, Devontae Adams was not able to practice today. Neither was Jacoby Myers with a concussion. Jimmy G, I think, was also limited too. So they're a little beat up. I think going into the year, if you told the Raiders they were 1-1 after 2 weeks, they'd be happy, and I still think they'll feel that way. So I don't think this is going to be a very exciting game. Next up, this is probably, I want to say, the second or third best game of the weekend. It is the Chiefs laying 3 at the Jacksonville Jaguars in the heat and humidity of Jacksonville.
I want to say the Chiefs. I have them 2 on my power ranking. I have them, winning the Super Bowl. I think there's a legit chance they start 0-2. I'm staying away from it. I'm doubting Mahomes is a stupid proposition. But I think the Jags are probably in a little better shape right now. I don't know. I'll still take the Chiefs if you put a gun to my head, but I'm not putting any money on it.
This game has a lot of implications for the 1 seed in the AFC, actually, which isn't normally a thing for week 2, but considering the Jaguars, I mean, how many division games do you think they're going to win? They're going to win at least 5. They're going to go at least 5-1, I think.
They're going to beat one, right?
Yeah. So they're going to beat the Texans and Colts twice. They could split with the Titans, you could argue, but if they go 6-0 in the division, they could easily win 14 games, and if they have the tiebreaker over the Chiefs, that's the 1 seed. So I don't know. I think I'm gonna lean the Chiefs just for that very reason. Like, they're gonna know how important it is to go out and win this game. But I really don't feel comfortable betting it. I think that Trevor Lawrence is establishing himself as kind of in that second tier behind Mahomes. It's kind of Mahomes and then a break, and then it's some order of Allen, Hurts, Lawrence, Herbert, maybe Burrow. Yeah, Burrow. Burrow's probably 2. So Lamar. Yeah. So that'll definitely be a good one. And also I think Kadarius Toney is going to have a big game. I know he had the worst game of all time on opening night, but they're throwing him deep balls. He's in that Tyreek Hill role. He's not a bad player. He got picked 20th overall for a reason. He's obviously has talent. So they just got to get that straightened out, and I think it starts this week.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't really have a ton of time to prepare for Kelsey being out of the game. So
yeah.
I agree. I think they'll look better. I think he can wipe out some of the turnovers. Like you said, though, you have 2 of the best quarterbacks in the league in Jacksonville. I think the Chiefs need it more, and that's part of the reason I'm leaning the Chiefs. But the next game up is the Ravens-Bengals, an AFC North showdown. That's your neck of the woods. I know I took the Ravens, but I'm kind of feeling the Bengals here. I think this is another game where the Bengals might feel like they need this one because otherwise they're 0-2 in division play right out the gate.
Yeah, I'm going to lean Bengals too. It's somewhere between 3 and 3.5. I'd much rather play the 3. I'm pretty comfortable with that. The Ravens, as we talked about last episode, they've kind of been hit with a bunch of injuries, whereas the Bengals are, I guess, kind of trending, or they want to be trending up because Joe Burrow can't play much worse than he did last week. So he's going to start giving T. Higgins the ball. Jamar Chase is gonna get loose for a couple plays, and I would lean the Bengals there as well. But that's a huge game for the division too, because the Browns are 1-0. Bengals could fall to 0-2, which would be pretty tough to come back from. I mean, they definitely have to rattle off 6 or 7 wins in a row if they want to win that division.
Yeah, I don't want to overreact, but if you start 0-2, they're kind of, and one of those losses already being to the Ravens at home, knowing that if you play them again, it's in Baltimore. Yeah. I think that they're going to feel some pressure. If the Ravens win this, I'm going to feel great about my Ravens picks. 2-0 would be an awesome start for them. And this is one that going into the season, you probably had chalked up as an L. despite what happened last week.
Yep. All right, next up, Giants -4.5 at the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah, gross. This is our throw up game of the week. Please do not watch this. However, I would like to state my case. I am, just to give you some background, I'm in a Survivor contest. I mentioned this on my solo pod, where basically you have to pick one team per week, and if they win, you survive the week and you can move on, but you can't use that team the rest of the year. So I'm in a Survivor contest with 6,500 people in it. It was free to enter with unlimited entries. So I have 20 entries, and I'm about to put all 20 on the Giants because I do not ever want to use them again. They are a horrible team.
Smart.
But they are going to beat the Cardinals. I believe that's going to happen. Their schedule is so bad coming up that if they don't win this game, they are legitimately hopeless. They have the Niners, Seahawks, Dolphins, Bills, Commanders coming up. They have to win this game.
And that's the Giants, you said?
Yeah.
If the Giants lose this game, then you're going to be talking about like having a top draft pick with Danny Dimes just signing an extension. So that'll be funny.
If they have a top 1 or 2 pick, it probably won't be that drastic. But if you have a top 5 pick, you would seriously have to think about drafting a quarterback, or you better trade.
Hell yeah.
You better trade that pick. Yeah. Who are they competing with in the Danny Dimes sweepstakes? Nobody. Nobody was going to pay him that much.
That's why that's true. That's why when my Packers fans in my life are talking about how good Love is going to be, it's like, well, if he plays up to the Danny Dimes standard, which isn't asking a whole lot, you're going to have to be comfortable paying him somewhere in that ballpark, 35, 40 million. He's going to get paid in a year. So, I mean, there goes all your cap space.
Yeah, that's the tough thing about having Jordan Love sit is you don't have enough. They have one season to evaluate.
It's 1 year. Yeah.
So, good on him. If he plays well and he gets his money, like that worked out great for him. I'm sure he cares about how the rest of his career goes, but if you end up being a bust and you make $150 million, that's a lot better than, I don't know, Zach Wilson's contract. I know he went number 2, but I'm interested to see how much money he made. He was 4 years, $35 million. So obviously a nice chunk of change. I'd kill for $35 million, but having $150 million just makes you feel so much better. You sleep so much better at night.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Giants are going to win. They got embarrassed. They have to win.
Yeah.
The Rams 49ers is next up. That's the game that I have in my teaser. I think it's at 7.5. I've seen it at 7 on FanDuel this afternoon. It's bounced around, but the 49ers have to beat the Rams, right? I want to say Matt Stafford, we probably need to give him a little more credit when we talk about this team. I know that they're talent deficient overall, but Matt Stafford is still a veteran savvy QB who can still win a game with more inferior talent than his opponent. And I think that's what he did last week. So I don't think they're as big of a joke as maybe I thought they were before the season started, but I still feel decent about my under 6.5 win total ticket on the Rams.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it depends if Cooper Kupp comes back or not. If he does miss a lot of time, then I do think they'll go under the 6.5. If they're sitting there at 2-4 through 6 games and he comes back, then I could see them easily trying to, go 500. But
yeah, what's the split going to be in that stadium for fans? It's in LA. I have to imagine it's going to be 50-50 49ers fans. They have a huge fan base.
Yeah, at least
60-40.
If it was a Rams. Chargers game, it would probably be 90-10. But with the Rams, they do have a few more fans here. A lot of people that I talk to, especially at work when I'm talking football, there's a lot of Raiders fans.
Yeah, they're big too.
Yeah. Okay, next up, Jets Cowboys. Cowboys are laying 8.5 at home. That's another one of your teaser legs.
Yeah, I saw it this morning at 9.5. It's down to 8.5. So if you can get it at 8.5, even better. We can go ahead and update my parlay for the 6-pack to 1.5. That'll help. But yeah, I just think the Cowboys, they're one of my top 4 teams in the league. I think they're really talented. I think the whole having a week to game plan for Zach Wilson will help a little bit. It's not like the Jets offense was anything great. I know they won. They won on, they had a special teams touchdown to end it. It's on the road. It's in Dallas. I just think that you're going to see Zach Wilson be the Zach Wilson we know and love. I don't think they'll win by like 2-3 scores or anything crazy, like more than that. But if I'm getting it at 1.5, so I feel pretty good.
Yeah. I share the same thoughts as you. I don't think it's going to be particularly close. I don't think the Jets will be able to move the ball. I wouldn't hate the under in that game as well, just because both teams are.
The Jets defense legit.
Yeah, both are top 5 defenses, I would say. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Commanders plus 3.5 at the Broncos. This is a pretty ugly game. I don't really have any motivation.
Feel about it.
Yeah, I don't really have any motivation to watch them, especially the Broncos. I think the Commanders are a fun team, but
I was gonna say I'm taking the Commanders plus 3.5.
Yeah, Broncos, they have the home field, but they also have Russell Wilson. I don't think he's good anymore. Yeah, I don't have a lot to say on this game.
Yep.
Okay.
This is another good game though. The Dolphins Pats.
Yeah, this is a good one to end the week.
The Dolphins being only a 2.5-point favorite after their big win against the Chargers, where Tua looked great. Seems like Vegas really loves the Pats if this is only a 2.5-point spread.
I think the Patriots have enough speed on defense to keep up with the Dolphins. I think that's part of it. And the Patriots have an elite defense, and I don't know. The Tua thing, he's always one hit away from being knocked out, which I can't imagine that's in like a game line. It's more of like in their season odds. Whereas I think they're like 1,900 to win the Super Bowl, something like that, 19-1. I don't know. They're definitely a good team. Tyreek Hill said he's going for 2,000 yards. He's on pace for like 3,600. It'd be interesting to see his odds. They moved down to 50-1 to win the MVP. Do you think the MVP is just a quarterback award, or do you think that a wide receiver could win that? Because how it's been the past 4 or 5 years is the best quarterback wins the MVP, and the best skill player wins the offensive player of the year.
I think he'd have to get to like 2,100 yards, and the Dolphins would have to win the division.
Yeah, but the issue is what happens if Tua throws for like 5,000 and Waddle goes for like 1,500 too? Then it's like Tua has to win MVP.
Yeah, that's true. It's going to be pretty dang tough for him to win it. I'd stay away from it. Last weekend, I was fully prepared to ride with the Pats to cover. It just felt like it was setting up really perfectly. The Dolphins have a highly emotional win. Everyone's kind of, riding them a little bit. The Pats lost. I know you and I were kind of impressed with the Pats loss.
Yeah.
But the line came out and it was a lot closer than I thought. I really thought it was going to be like around 6 points, maybe 5, 6. So now that I've seen the line at 2.5, I'm going to take the Dolphins to cover. It could literally be with a minute left and then you kick a field goal. That's all it is.
I think that's a mistake. I am going to wait for 3, though. If I can get Patriots plus 3 at home, I will take that all day. Mac Jones, I know you don't like him. I know a lot of people don't like him. I don't even know if I like him. But he did play better last week. He had 300 passing yards, which he only had twice last season. So obviously having Patricia not run the offense anymore is good for them. So they can't get much worse.
How did Bill let that happen?
I don't know. That could be one of the worst mistakes of his career, honestly, because he just wasted a whole season. But
Yep. You know what? He took Saban's offensive coordinator, and now people are wondering if Saban made a mistake with his OC. So interesting how that works.
yeah,
You didn't
I love
see hire, a few weeks ago, but we'll see.
Saban can just go and like hire Tom Herman in a couple years as his OC, and he'll help turn things around.
Dude, if you look at the OCs he's had lately, it's been like Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkisian, Bill O'Brien.
It's
It's
like
actually insane.
It's like football rehab. It's like go spend a year in Tuscaloosa and then you'll be ready to actually be a coach again.
They had a staff that had like Kirby Smart, Dan Lanning, the coach of Oregon, was like an offensive assistant, and then like either it was like Lane Kiffin or someone like that, and it was just like, man, that coaching staff was like an all-star team.
Yeah.
But the next game up is the first Monday night game, Saints Panthers, right down the street from me here in Charlotte. I know
how much if I gave you free tickets to that game, would you go?
No.
Yeah.
No one would want to go with me. I'm not going by myself.
I think that I'm leaning the Panthers +3. I'm not very impressed with the Saints. I think Bryce Young is the best quarterback on the field talent-wise. I'm not sure if he's going to play that way because he's a rookie, but I just don't think the Saints are that good. Which I think you picked them to win the division, didn't you?
Yeah, I told you I watched every snap of that Panthers game versus the Falcons last week. It was two quarterbacks who played awful. I don't think Bryce Young is going to be awful. I'm not saying that, but I think he looked worse than CJ Stroud last week. Anthony Richardson was definitely clear of both those guys. I'm not out on Bryce Young by any means. I think he may be the situation is dictating some of it. I actually think the Saints defense is actually really good. I know you kind of thought they were going to fall off a little bit this year. I'm not totally sure. And I do have them. I think, do I have them in fantasy? I don't even remember. I thought I might have. Yeah, I did.
Wow, they must be really good if you can't even remember you have.
Well, they had 3 picks last week off Tannehill, so I was like, but anyways, I actually think they have a good defensive line, and I think that they're going to make it hard on a young quarterback. I'm taking the Saints to win and win ugly.
Yeah, it'll probably be an ugly game regardless. So yeah, that's the first Monday night game. The other Monday night game, which this is the game that has Buck and Aikman as the announcer, so it's kind of the main game, if you will. This is the Browns at the Steelers. We touched on this quite a bit. I told you that I'm a little hesitant to back the Browns. I do ultimately think they win, but as a Browns fan, it's just hard to imagine me going to sleep Monday night with my team 2-0 because that hasn't happened in 20 years. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's the NFL. Anything can happen, but when you just go like position by position, the Browns are better. I know you mentioned the whole Kenny Pickett having a concussion thing, but the first thing that came to my mind is like, isn't that a bad thing? Like, how is he going to be? You don't get a concussion on a Sunday and you're fine the following Monday. I know that's like 7 full days since he apparently may have had a concussion. That doesn't exactly bode well. I think that's probably a negative more so than a positive. They have the better defensive line. They have the better quarterback. They have the better receivers. They don't have the better coach. That does matter. I just really think the Steelers' offensive line is terrible.
Did you know that Kenny Pickett had 2 concussions in 2022, which is the same number as Tua? Why do people make a bigger deal about Tua, me included? I mean, I know Tua took a month to recover from one of them, and Pickett only ended up missing 1 game. But
not all concussions are built the same, I guess.
Yeah.
Does he have a history of them from like college or like his other seasons? I don't know.
I don't think so, but
I think you could only have so many concussions like total in your whole career. So like if he had some at Alabama or his rookie year or something, that could definitely be a factor.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much the NFL in a nutshell there. first game going on right now, Vikings Eagles, and then everything will lead up to the 2 Monday night games. So really looking forward to that. Make sure to follow our 6-pack. We're going to have a winning week for you. Feel pretty confident about it, and we'll keep building off it. But in addition to the 6-pack, I heard a rumor that you have some college football plays.
Well, last week we talked about it during the pod. I just don't think we consolidated all of them or tweeted them out. But our college football record last week was pretty great. I think we looked at like the top 10 games. And we were like 7-3 or something like that. I don't know. We won a lot more than we lost.
I know we missed the A&M Miami game. We didn't talk about it that much.
We lost that one in Wisconsin, but I feel like we hit on like every other one.
Yeah. So
including some plus monies and some props.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that we're getting credit for these, because I know our 6-pack record isn't representative of some of these winners we're giving out.
Hey man, if you want to add more picks to the 6-pack, no one said it had to be just 6. Maybe we have a 12-pack on a given day. So
you're right. But anyways, I tweeted the plays, my college football picks, because the games are starting tonight. There's a Thursday night game in there, I believe. So I wanted to get it out there beforehand so people don't think I'm cheating. And I didn't go necessarily through the best games. I just kind of picked the things that stood out to me that I was going to play myself.
Okay. Yeah, you want to run through them real quick?
Yeah, let's start with, I know we got a question from one of our fans about, they want to talk about Georgia minus 27.5 versus South Carolina. I took South Carolina's win total before the season over 6.5, I think. So I feel like I'm being pretty unbiased here when I say I'm taking Georgia to cover 27.5. I know it's a huge total. It's not the one I feel the most confident in out of this slate or anything, but South Carolina has one of the worst offensive lines in college football. The tackles for loss allowed is up there with like the Louisiana Techs of the world. They've just gotten completely bullied. I think Spencer Rattler is actually playing better than almost any quarterback in America, like just to keep them afloat. He's been an absolute stud. He won't get any recognition because his team sucks. And I just don't think he's going to be put in many advantageous positions, but I wouldn't sleep on him for like when it comes draft time. And I think they still have a chance to hit their over 6.5. I just don't feel great about it. But Georgia's defense against that offensive line, I think, could be a bloodbath. So Rattler is still completing like 80% of his passes. But the thing about Georgia is like this is really their first true game. They really haven't been tested. This is SEC play for them now. So I think you might see them kind of stop sleepwalking and kick it up a notch and actually like put a pounding on somebody. So I'm riding with Georgia 27.5. I know that's a crazy line, but I wouldn't put like huge unit size on this or anything. The one I really like this week, and it's another one that we got asked about, is the UNC Minnesota game. The game's at North Carolina. Do you have any feelings on this one?
I don't care about this game at all, other than watching Drake May's film come draft time. I'm gonna lean Minnesota just because I know UNC struggled with Appalachian State last week, and Minnesota seems like they have a pretty decent defense. It looks like you feel the same way about Minnesota.
I am staying away from the spread. It's a 7.5 point line. UNC's favored. I am going with the under though. Under 50.5. Yes, Minnesota has a good defense, top 15 in the league last year. They've only allowed like 16 points total. I know they've played Nebraska and I know they played Eastern Michigan, but they have some NFL talent on their defense. The one thing PJ Fleck has done well over the years is build a Big Ten caliber defense. And the knock on Minnesota this year is their offense. So if they can't score 20 points, how are they going to hit over 50.5 points? So I think it's going to be something in the ballpark of like Minnesota scoring like 10 to 14 and then UNC somewhere in the 20s. So I'm taking under 50.5. That you can get that at actually minus 105, so not the typical minus 110. So minus 50 or under 50.5.
Nice.
Another under, I think, like I said, SEC play starting this week. It's kind of a boring slate overall. Some of these SEC matchups are just kind of duds. LSU, Mississippi State. I'm taking the under 54.5. Mississippi State threw 17 passes last week, and 4 of them were beyond like 3 yards past the line of scrimmage. So they are going to run the ball. They're going to drain the clock. Jaden Daniels obviously likes to run the ball. LSU, I don't see them putting up a huge number here. Mississippi State is one of the worst teams in the SEC. So if Mississippi State, let's say, is scoring 14 or less, it's going to be asking a lot of LSU in order to hit that over. So under 54.5 at minus 110. Part of the reason I'm taking this as well, and you're probably going to be shocked when I say this, is I don't think LSU is as good as I thought coming into the season. And you know my Alabama under 10.5 play before the season?
Yeah, that's all you talked about.
Yeah, and I'm smart for it because they're already 1-1. But you can now get Bama over 9.5 wins on FanDuel for minus 114.
So are you going to middle it? You think you're going to win 10?
Because I'm like, on one hand, the odds are better than I don't have to, like, at worst case, it's kind of a hedge. And then best case, I think I can get them at 10. They're going to be favored in their next 10 games. So let's say they go 9-1, then I'm hitting it on both sides. If they go 10-0, then I'm still going to get that over. So it just kind of helps me balance out the risk there. The Bama play was one of my largest bets of the whole offseason. So this just kind of covers me a little more. Getting to 10 wins is not very hard when you look at their schedule.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's going to come down to the LSU game, right?
Yeah, I really don't think they're going to be tested other than a couple games.
Yeah.
So you can,
Tennessee, LSU, and Ole Miss, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, and I'm not super big on Tennessee. I know they're a 6-point favorite. I know Florida has Graham Mertz. I think it's going to be a closer game than people think. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, hence why I took the under in the 6-pack. But yeah, I'm not huge on Tennessee. And since we're talking about Bama, Nick Saban is going to just come out guns a-blazing this week. I have Bama covering 19.5 in the first half versus USF. You get that at minus 110. I think they're just coming off a loss. They're embarrassed. They're just going to run up the score on USF.
I could see that. Do you want to rapid fire through these and then we can talk Hawks for a couple minutes?
Yeah, rapid fire. Duke is going to pound Northwestern. I'm interested to watch their quarterback. I know he's got some draft type. Leonard, is that what it is? Leonard? They're 18.5 point favorites. I'm taking them to cover. I think Northwestern is an FCS caliber roster right now. I have Memphis minus 13.5 tonight. They're playing Navy. I can't get Navy's offense out of my head from that Notre Dame game, so I have them cover the 13.5. It was like 14.5. It's now at 13.5, so I'm riding with it. That's minus 104, so it's even better odds. But yeah, if you want to talk some I also have Bethune-Cookman plus 50.5 versus Miami. So Miami had their big win against Texas A&M last week. I think they're going to be kind of, looking past Bethune-Cookman, still celebrating last week's win. Mario Cristobal is 2-4 against the spread after beating a top 25 team. So we'll look for them to just kind of coast a little bit. I mean, they could still win by 40 and we're fine, folks.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, that's
huge.
7.5 touchdowns. So
yeah, I mean, if you lose, you lose. It's kind of a fun pick.
Sure.
In state. So this is one that we talked about in the off season, and it's really hilarious to me. Iowa State is playing at Ohio, the Bobcats. They are playing them on the road, which is completely embarrassing. And the sad part is I was listening to some Des Moines Iowa radio, and they said that this might be the most important game of Matt Campbell's career at Iowa State. And they were dead serious, because if you start 0-2 or 1-2 and you lose a game to Ohio, you're probably missing a bowl game this year. The seat is not going to get hot, but it's going to get warm. It's going to be the first time Matt Campbell's ever been questioned in his Iowa State career.
Him though. They're not going to get anybody better than Matt Campbell.
He should have left when he had the chance, though, right?
I mean, his name was hot in the NFL rumor mill, but now I can't imagine any team wants to hire him.
Yeah, he's won like 6 of his last like 20-some games. He's struggling.
He did create the next Tom Brady though in Brock Purdy. So
yeah, he had Brock Purdy and all those wide receivers and Breece Hall and Will McDonald, and he won 7 games. So some coach. Anyways, Iowa's a 28.5 point favorite. I would bet it down if you're going to do it to 27.5.
Were they playing Western Michigan?
Yeah, Western Michigan has given up 40 points to some bad teams. Apparently their defense terrible. I think this is kind of a get over that 25 point mark for Brian type game. I don't see Western Michigan scoring many points, so it's nice. I'm not really that stressed this week about anything Iowa related. It's just like keep everyone healthy, win, hopefully score a lot of points, and everyone's happy.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's their last tune-up before Penn State next week. Obviously, you don't want to look ahead. Western Michigan's still a legitimate college football team, but you know going into the week, you're probably going to win. So they got Penn State. You win that game. I guess it doesn't guarantee you to go to the Big Ten title game, because if you lose to Wisconsin, you'd still lose the tiebreaker. But assuming Wisconsin loses a couple games, that can definitely go a long way. Do you have any insights or previews into that game, or you still want to wait and see kind of how Cade's leg's holding up, or if he ends up playing?
I am not nervous at all for that game. Not because I think we're going to win. I just think we have nothing to lose. 99.999% of America thinks we're going to lose. I think we're going to lose. We're a 10.5 point dog as of today. If you win that game, like you said, you're set up for the Big Ten. If you lose, you're just following the schedule. You're following like what we kind of thought coming into the year. They are going to be favored in 11 of the 12 games they play this year. This is the one game they're not going to be favored in. If hypothetically speaking, if you do go 11-1 or 10-2, you might get a rematch against them, and it might be at a neutral site rather than at Happy Valley on a night game for a ranked game. I just think that going into Happy Valley when they're a top 5 team probably in the country and winning is asking a lot. If they win, awesome. But
I will 100% have Iowa to lose by more than 10.5 on the 6-pack. I apologize. You don't have to play it. I just want the free win.
We'll see. We'll see what the line finishes at.
Our good friend Nicholas Bear, I want to call this out real quick because I would like to clip this actually and maybe tweet it at him. He's sponsored by Clutch Bet, which no free ads. I'll say it
no free ads.
No free ads. But if you use promo code BEAR at sign up, apparently he gets like $1 in free play and personal money or something. So help a brother out there. But I tweeted at him and the Clutch Bet team, and I said, can we get a prop, or can we talk about creating a prop for Iowa to score 0 points against Penn State? Because I think it's possible. I could see Iowa losing 9-0. Or 13-0 or 13-3. Like, I just think that if you give me like 15-1 on Iowa to score 0, I'm putting some money on that. So they have ghosted me. They haven't gotten back to me. So this is my cry for help. Please create that prop and take my money.
Very possible. I wouldn't bet. I'm not saying I won't bet. I don't think they'll get shut out, but it wouldn't shock me. If there's like a 3 points and under bet, yeah. They've scored 3 points like at the big house and stuff like that before. It's not crazy to think about.
What was that crazy Iowa Penn State game from a few years ago? Wasn't it like
2008?
Yeah, what was
or was it 2008, 2009? Yeah, it was like 9-6, and then one time we beat them 6-4.
Yeah, there you go. So low scoring is definitely a thing.
We've had some history beating Penn State at Penn State. We're one of the few schools that has. But man, that place is tough. It's not like or NFL. It's not corporate. It's not a bunch of people just hanging out like Sunday morning vibes. Like it's going to be 100,000+ people, and half of them are hammered. It's going to be wild, and there are not going to be many Iowa fans there because it's all the way out there.
Yeah, that is not a place where you want to go in and struggle right away because the crowd will eat you alive, and it'll be hard to dig out of that hole. Okay. Anything else college football related? You got it covered.
No, I don't really have any overall thoughts. I still think Georgia is the best team. Until I see otherwise. So kind of rolling with that for now.
That is coming from a man who hasn't watched a second of Michigan football this year. Michigan is the best team. No one talks about them. They just go out and win by 30 every single week.
No one talks about them because they've scheduled a bunch of shit teams to start the year. Their schedule doesn't even really start till mid-October. Then we'll start talking about it. But when you're coasting out there, it's kind of like, what are we even going to do?
East Carolina, UNLV, 2 wins. They play Bowling Green, Rutgers, Nebraska, Minnesota, Indiana, Michigan State, Purdue coming up. So they are literally not playing a meaningful game until at Penn State on November 11th, and they can beat Maryland, and then they play Ohio State at home.
Do they play Wisconsin? No, they play Ohio State plays Wisconsin.
No.
Yeah, their schedule is definitely the most favorable out of those big three. Obviously, you got to win the Big Ten title anyway, so I guess which would be Iowa or Wisconsin anyway. But yeah, I think Michigan's up there. Texas is probably up there. Texas is like a 35-point favorite this week against kind of a mid team. I wouldn't be opposed to betting some on their opponent just because I can kind of see that's such a Texas move would be to kind of look past their next opponent and play them really tough because they beat Bama.
Yeah, they play Wyoming at home this week. And Wyoming, just beat Texas Tech. They're 2-0 team. They're pretty solid, but definitely a letdown spot.
I'm just like really interested in the Pac-12 this year. I think they've been a really fun league. There's 7 teams that you have to pay attention to. Colorado plays this week versus Colorado State. The coach for Colorado State was kind of taking shots at Dion for wearing sunglasses and stuff. So maybe they'll run up the score. They're like a 23.5-point favorite. It's a 60.5 points total. So I was really tempted to take the over, but then I'm like, Colorado tries to run it up anyway. It's not anything different.
I don't even know why people are talking trash about Dion. If I was an opposing coach, I would literally keep my press conferences as short as possible. I'd be like, he's a great coach, great football mind, and I'd love to pick his brain after the season. I'd literally leave it at that. But no, Colorado State, some nobody coach is like, why is he wearing sunglasses, blah, blah, blah. Well, this afternoon, this video surfaced on Twitter where Deion Sanders is talking to his team, and he's talking to his football players like it's a 5th grade class, and he's like prompting them what to say. And he's like, so yeah, they're talking about it and they made it. And the whole team goes, personal. And he goes, and so we were just going to play a normal game, but they made it personal. So we're going to go out and destroy them. So it's like, I don't know why they made it personal, but they did. And Colorado knows it. So I'll be watching that game. I'll probably end up betting Colorado just for fun and saying I was a part of it. And I just feel bad about doubting them early in the year.
It's going to be awesome the next month or two. The Pac-12 schedule gets really fun. Those teams all start playing each other. You're going to have like Colorado at USC. You're going to have like Oregon and Oregon State. I think Colorado plays at Oregon next week. So Utah, Washington. Michigan State plays Washington this week. Washington's like a 16-point favorite. I think our listener Brett Gatos had a play on it, but I'm staying away. I like Washington. I think they're good. I don't remember what he was thinking, but
he said that
I'm staying away.
I think he said that Michigan State was gonna come out and play well because of the whole Mel Tucker thing, to try to save their season.
It's possible.
Yeah, that whole situation's a mess. I almost wonder if I don't know all the details, so I'm gonna be very
I know what you're gonna say
about how I say this. But should I just not even say it?
Don't even say this. Say this. No, I'm not going to say it either. But Mel Tucker makes a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is the end of our podcast. So, yeah, it's a very peculiar situation. I hope they get to the bottom of it and get it resolved.
Yep.
Okay. That's college football. Real quickly, looking at the MLB, I don't know how he did it, but Blake Snell threw 6 shutout innings last night. He did it again. He moved like minus 330 to win the NL Cy Young. It's down to him or Steele. I know you got Steele at 18-1. Is it time for you to hedge?
Steele pitches against the Diamondbacks this week in a wild card preview matchup. He's got a big stage. I probably should sprinkle a little bit on Snell.
You should just bet the over on that game, on the Diamondbacks Cubs.
Yeah, you're right. That'd be kind of
smart.
Yeah, Blake Snell might be our new Brian Harmon.
Yeah.
We can make like a few episodes, and
we can make a Mount Rushmore of like the Bet GPT, like the people who we
let's make an edit.
Yeah.
Let's make like an edit, and it's got like flames and stuff. It's like Bet GPT's hell or something. Like,
yeah, we'll get to working on that. So like I said, Snell minus 360, Justin Steele's plus 260, and everyone else is 100-1. So it's a 2-man race. Other than that's the only player award where stuff's up for grabs. Then it kind of comes down to who's going to make the playoffs. So looking at the AL side first, the Rangers just lost Max Scherzer for the season. I don't even really think that matters though, because he was not contributing much. I think he maybe won him 1 game, but I think he's 39 years old. So
is the Rangers collapse more depressing than the Angels? It's got to be close.
Hey, they've been playing well the past 3 days, actually. I thought their collapse was bad too, but the Rangers are up to minus 520 to make the playoffs. So they're up. Looking at the standings here, let's just look at the AL West. Astros 83-64. They're up 1 game on the Rangers, who are up a half game on the Mariners. So they're all clumped in right there. And the Blue Jays are the other wild card team. They're at 80-66. So they're 1 game behind the Mariners. So looking at the MLB odds to make the playoffs, Mariners are minus 350. Rangers are minus 520. And the Blue Jays are down to minus 106. So something's got to give there. I think the Mariners get in. I just think they figured out Julio probably is like going to be 3rd place in the MVP ballot. It's hard because Ohtani just balled out, or no one even cares about kind of what's going on, where Seager and Julio Rodriguez, their seasons have kind of been overshadowed. But I would lean the Blue Jays missing or the Rangers. How about you?
I said last week that the Angels or the Blue Jays don't have enough pitching. I still feel that way. Vladdy's kind of having a weird year. For like the 2nd year in a row. I don't know what's going on there. They're just out of all the teams that we just talked about, they're the team I would fear the least. You're on mute.
Excuse me. Did you see that Alek Manoah for the Blue Jays? He did not report to AAA for them on August 11th.
Dude, baseball is a weird sport, man. Like, guys go from being studs to just sucking, and like some people just don't know how to handle that.
I can pretty much tell you right now that Alek Manoah next year is going to be on one of the Cubs, Guardians, or Rays, probably the Rays. And if he does go to the Rays, he will have to get Tommy John in 2 years, but he will have a comeback. And I just think he needs a change of scenery. I don't know. He'll just go to Arizona, go sweat out all that weight you gained for no reason, and go back to being a good pitcher.
He doesn't seem like a positive energy guy. I don't really think I'd want him on the Cubs. I'd be like, I don't know.
Just save the money for Ohtani. Call it good.
Yeah.
Okay. Other than that, on the NL side, I was watching the Cubs like a week ago, and I'm always cautiously optimistic because my wife, who's a lifelong Cubs fan, she just doesn't like to jinx it. But I straight up told her, I was like, I can now with 100% certainty say the Cubs are making the playoffs. And they went on to get swept by the D-backs, and they just lost 2 of 3 against the Rockies, who coming into the series lost 17 of 20. So
they didn't get swept, man. They won 1 of the 4.
Oh, no, I said 1 of 4. Oh, I always forget that's a 4-game series because they're going 4-3. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, they've looked like crap. Offensively, the bullpen is wearing down. Not that the bullpen's getting rocked. It's just a lot of our best relievers seems like they're getting hurt, dinged up. Adbert's our closers on the IL. Really, the offense. It's the same story we've kind of known all year. They missed that big bat. Candelario's now on the IL. They just don't have that big thump. I mean, they have Bellinger, but they just don't have like that superstar that you can count on to hit 35, 40 home runs. Like Bellinger only has 25 homers. He's having an amazing year. If he was healthy the whole year, he'd probably be a candidate for the MVP, but he's hitting the ball for contact more. He's not a huge slugger. We just don't have that big game-breaking slugger.
Yeah. The standings right now, as is the Phillies are up a game and a half on the Cubs. The Cubs have the second spot. They're 2 up on Arizona, who's up a half game on San Fran and Cincinnati. So San Fran and Cincinnati are knocking on the door with the Cubs and Arizona sneaking in. I think my prediction as of right now is Phillies, Cubs, and then Giants. I basically see all teams other than the Reds, and then I guess the Marlins are there too. I don't see that. But
yeah, I'd probably go Diamondbacks over the Giants. I hope it's the Giants. I think they're a little worse.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much the MLB. I want to make sure we don't lose sight of the MLB because we have the pennant races coming down to the wire. We have the playoffs coming up. So there's nothing better than watching the playoffs, Tuesday, Wednesday night, and then you have Thursday football. Then you go back to Friday MLB, some day games on the weekends. So we have a really good sports month coming up, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, it sucks there's no game 163s anymore, apparently, but we'll live.
Yeah, so that's something that we've talked about in previous episodes, but apparently they changed it this year where there's just they have all these tiebreakers for wild card. So it's like interdivision, or it's head-to-head record, intra-division record. Then there's like 6 other things that it comes down to. Then the third one's interdivision record, last half of intra-league games, last half of intra-league games +1, whatever that means. So MLB just getting rid of one of the most fun days of the year, but that's all good. I mean, I can see why they did it. They don't want some team who has to play an extra game, then their bullpen is just destroyed. Then they have to go and play the Brave or the it would be like the Braves.
So, it makes sense. It was a wild card. Yeah. It was stupid that the Cubs ever had to play in that game 163, but whatever. We should have just been handed the division.
Yeah, well, that's why you play the game. And actually, Baseball, it's like I'd have to pull the stat for next episode, but basically baseball is such a random sport where I think it's like best of 79. You'd have to play a best of 79 series to legitimately know who the better team is, and you're obviously not getting that with a best of 5 and then best of 7 series, or excuse me, best of 3. Or is it best of, what's the wild card? Best of 3?
I think it's 3 now.
Yeah.
And it used to be 1.
Yeah, which is just crazy. So, yeah, these teams, the Braves and the Dodgers, they are that much better, but will they be better in a 7-game sample size? Not necessarily. So, craziness is about to ensue for sure.
Yep.
But, okay. I think that's it. Thank you for listening to another episode of Bet GPT. Good luck on your bets this upcoming weekend. I don't know about you, but I'm about to go catch the second quarter of this Eagles Vikings game.
Yeah, what's the score?
I don't have my TV on, but I will. I'll text you and talk about it. All right. Thanks, everybody.